Well, howdy folks, Halcorrex here, and welcome to Thoughts from the Inner Sphere from a Mercenary point of view, episode 88. And today we're going to be talking about the Wyvern. That's that 45-ton mech that can do the job if you need to. Alright, the Wyvern is one of those mechs that falls into the same kind of class of mechs that are the 4-6 movers, 4-6-4s, 4-6 nothings, you know. That you're talking like Vindicators, Enforcers, Henchbacks, Centurions, Panthers, those kind of mechs that are not really fast in the game. They move around pretty decently, but you know, they're not going to break any land speed records out there. You know, okay, that kind of class of mech. But being that they're not so fast, they carry around a lot of good weapons, which is why they are at that tonnage and movement, because you want to put some weapons on something, because the faster you move, the less weapons you're going to have. There's purposes for a mech with some good movement. We call those scouts. Alright, these guys are kind of like the frontline mechs for their class. Okay, let's just talk about the Wyvern, or Wyvern, or however you want to pronounce it. It's been pronounced many different ways. I've heard many different ways. So I just call it Wyvern. Now, okay, we're looking at a 45-ton mech that's a 4.64 jump jets. Alright, it's always handy to have jump jets. 12 heat sinks, carries around 136 points of armor, and has a smorgasbord of weapons. We have an LRM10 in the center torso with a ton of ammo in the left torso. A large laser in the right arm. 2 small lasers in the right arm. And SRM6 in the right torso with a ton of ammo. And jump jets. Right, left torso, and right and left leg. Alright, what do I like about this mech? Well, it has a tendency to have a lot of decent weaponry and can dish it out to 21 or 15 with a large laser. And with that kind of ranges, you're able to get out there and hit targets at a decent range, make them know that you're there, do some damage, because if you're running up against lighter and medium mechs, an LRM10 can do some good work, or the large laser can do some good work. Now, be it that the LRM10, when it does hit, most likely is going to do about 6 points of damage. That's just the nature of the beast, which is why I always looked at LRMs a lot of times as crit hunters versus armor ripper type things. That large laser is good for tearing off 8 points of armor off someplace in one location. And that kind of gets into how I like let's say order of operations when you're talking about different kind of mechs. I look at my Lance. I have a couple that their whole job is to tear armor off mechs. One is kind of a fire support mech, and another one is kind of like in between. This is the Wyvern is something that's in between kind of mech. Let's say you have an Enforcer or Centurion. Those work really good for tearing off large chunks of armor in one location, because with an 8 or 10 block type hit, all right, you can hurt somebody pretty decently. All right, and then you follow in with your crit hunter type mechs, and like a fire support mech in a Lance, typically I always like the Dervishes and the Trebuchets as a decent kind of mech that goes in there. Another good, well, let's say armor ripper, let's say a Hunchback. You know, if you're using the typical version with the AC-20, there's nothing wrong with hitting somebody with 20 points of damage, but I always call that a gambling kind of mech, because you're putting everything, almost all your eggs in one basket type of deal. You know, you do have a couple medium lasers for backup, but everything's got to be within 9. And a lot of times if I see a mech that's like a Hunchback coming in, I have a tendency to hammer it unless it's trying to hide, to sneak up and get close and personal. So there's also the version that has the 8 medium lasers. Now that is a version I really love, because that gives you some redundancy of lots of shots, because if you need 8s, 9s, and 10s, something's going to hit. Now, if you have a AC-20 and you need a 10 to hit, I'm still going to probably shoot it to take the shot, because I've hit mechs with a 12 before, but I'd rather have like 8 times trying to hit. And in the long run, if you hit 4 times, you did the same amount of damage. Yeah, it's all not all in the same spot, but you know, you still do 20 points of damage and make them take a pilot check. Now, and I like trebuchets and dervishes because they make great indirect fire or direct fire type of weapon systems. Now, with the Wyvern, you got the LRM10. You can do indirect work with it or direct fire with it and combine it with the large laser. Now, if you do that, you're looking at whatever type of movement you have is going to pump you up by 1 or 2 on the heat scale. So you can do that for about 4 turns before something has to be turned off and cool off. And if you're within 15, I usually shut off the LRM, because I'd rather do 8 points of damage in one spot than try to get, you know, a 5 block here or less block someplace else. So I'd rather put it all in one spot and then go right back to doing everything after you cool off a little bit. So that's one of the problems this mech has with 12 heat sinks. It does heat up. And if you fire everything on this thing, you're looking at 4, 12, 16, 16 if you walk, 17 if you run, 18, and if you jump, well, you're looking at 19, 20. And when you do that, if you go hit yourself with 20, you're already up 8 on the heat scale, and you got a -1 to movement and a -1 to hit the next turn. So you're looking at being a 3, 4, 4 type mover, and then you're punching yourself in the face with a minuses to hit. Because any time one modifier in the game can be the difference between everything hitting and not being able to hit. So why hurt yourself in that aspect? So that's why you kind of take all your weapon systems and kind of block them out in a way. Is that when I get to if I'm at out past 9, actually probably think of it this way: if you're 9 and farther out, I have a tendency to use the large laser and the LRM10 as doing most of my work, because those are going to be probably medium or long range, obviously. If you're past 9, you can't use that SRM. Now, if you get in closer and you've done a lot of good work on a mech and most of the armor's ripped off it, and you're able to shoot at medium range or closer, use that SRM, because anytime you can go crit hunting on a mech and do some damage, that can do some work. Because you look at this mech, for example, it has a ton of ammo in each torso. One torso, I think the left torso, you got a 1-4 shot of getting hitting the ammo. On the other side is a 1-6 shot, because depending on where the heat sinks are. But that's pretty good odds. If you get a crit or even 2 crits, it drops down. It's like the first time, let's say the left torso, first crit, you got a 1-4. Obviously something's gone, so you got a 1-3 shot the next time. And if you got a 12 or you got 3 crits, so you're looking at 1-4, 1-3, 1-2. You got a 50% chance of hitting ammo. That mech's odds are it's most likely going to go kabooey. And that's the problem with a lot of 39 era tech mechs. They have a tendency to go kablam, you know, when you hit the ammo, if they're carrying around ammo. Now, let's just bring up something interesting, because this is a Starleague mech. And we bring out the Starleague mech here real quick. The 2750, identical, except for 2 things. It has Indo-Steel, which gives you 2 more tons. And what do they do with that 2 tons? They put 1 into armor, which is just 1 point short of maximum, which is great because you might as well not use half a ton of space for 1 point armor. That's redundant. That's why you probably better off throwing another like small laser or something on it instead. And then it has case. And case, you ask, what's case? Oh, that's that wonderful little tool that prevents from your entire mech going up in a catastrophic explosion. So, like we were just talking about, the 1 in 6, the 1 in 4 shot. If you do win the lottery, or they win the lottery and hit your ammo, it's just that torso and arm that's gone. Now, the pilot takes a hit, obviously, from the ammo explosion, but the rest of the mech is protected from going catastrophic, so it doesn't cascade into the center torso. It's a great thing. All right, so you can keep on operating. So you still have one side of your mech left. Now, if it's the side that hits the LRM ammo, well, obviously your LRM launcher's gone. So then you're just stuck with a SRM, and you still got the large laser. All right, so that's not a big deal. Now, when you do get in close with this mech, let's just look at that for a second. We got those 2 small lasers. And they say those are great for trying to get crits too. So if you're right up close on somebody and you spent the last couple turns, 2-3 turns, tearing armor off of them, a small laser that's in range and hits, that is no different from being hit by an SRM or a machine gun. That is a chance for critical if you hit an open spot. 3 points damage. All right, kind of nice. So let's just kind of look at this real quick. Obviously, I always like using the large laser. Now, if you're within short range of you're 1 hex away or 1 inch away of your target, and you fire the 2 small lasers, there's 1, 2, 10, and you fire the SRM, that's 14, and if you walked, it's 15, 16. So you're looking at 15, 16. So you're looking at 3 or 4 up on the heat scale. And that might be worth it. You know, if you walked, fire everything, ignore using the LRM because obviously there's too many modifiers to do anything, obviously. And we like to block things together into firing solutions. So go ahead and do that. And the next turn you might be looking at being a 3-4-4. So if it's a slugfest or a rugby match or a rugby scrum that showed up, which typically what happens all the time, eventually everybody meets up in the middle for some reason and gloms onto each other and turns into a rugby scrum. Individuals will either be punching, kicking, and shooting all the short range stuff that they have in their arsenal, and things just start dropping like flies. Now, this mech does have 2 hands, and the left arm doesn't have any weapons in it. So if you get in close, you could punch if you want to. Now, if I'm within 1, I like rather a lot of times to kick because for some reason, you know, you got a -2, so that's probably better off to kick sometimes, and you're able to do a 9-point kick. Now, if I see a mech that's got an open armor on a leg or something, and I try to angle it so I can get onto the right or left, so they got a right leg that's got no armor left, angle it so you're hitting only on the right side. Get in there and move into the right side of and then kick. And you might be able to kick a leg off or something. Now, it goes back to the other thing. They'll say they got a right or left torso open. A lot of times I'm aiming for whatever torso side that might be open so I can funnel it in better, get into the side shots that way. So that's pretty much it right there. Now, when you're going across the board with this mech, obviously, being it's a 4.64, you can get over obstacles fairly decently, go over wood hexes or hills, and gives you some mobility that way with adding on, you know, modifiers to shoot down range. But, you know, if you're able to get it into, say, jump into some heavy woods that you couldn't run into for take 2 turns to run into, or just jump into it for 1 turn, do yourself a favor and get in there, take the shot when you do have, and then the next turn you don't have to move, because if you're, say, a heavy woods, that's a 2 modifier. The best it can do is get a 2 modifier. So you may not have to worry about moving. Just park there, and then that's doing yourself a favor, because if you don't move, that's 1 modifier less that you're going to have, or maybe 2 or 3, depending on if you walk, run, or jump. So getting yourself into a good position, because with this thing, with an LRM10 or the large laser, you do have a fairly decent range of control that can reach out and touch somebody. And if they get in closer, obviously use that closer weapon system. So that's pretty much everything with the Wyvern in a nutshell that I like to use it for. Pair it up with some other 4/6 movers, with let's say Hunchbacks, Enforcers, Centurions. Add in something else that might be a little faster to displace quicker, you know, like a Phoenix Hawk, or even a Dervish might be a good one, or a Trebuchet, because a 5/8 mover that can displace with its fire support might be a better deal in the long run. So that's it. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends about the channel, because let's try to grow this channel out there. There's not too many of us out there that actually talk about Battletech like this. And share it with all your friends. And heck, there might be a few that out there that actually have met at the different conventions at all the different Battletech game systems that we've played over the years. You may not know it, or maybe you have. I don't know. All right, this is Hellcrux, and we will talk with you later.